Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your Saturday and a great start to your weekend. Here to bring you the latest information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Saturday. A couple things to speak on. We got a severe weather threat and a winter storm that's going to unfold really beginning right now, but going to last throughout most of the weekend across areas of the country. And honestly, this severe weather risk is really close to where the winter storm is going to happen. So we'll kind of have a longer segment right in the middle of today's forecast portion of the video for that. So we'll speak on everybody else also, just like we always do. After we move past that portion of the video, we'll have timestamps up for the rest of the video. And of course, today's forecast portion also. And definitely take advantage of those as we're going to break down a lot of information. We have a week-long, it looks like, severe weather risk for next week. And it's really beginning today, honestly, which technically isn't for next week. But, we'll have that severe weather risk for today, a smaller one for tomorrow. And then for Monday, which is the day of our eclipse, we have already a slight risk up for areas right in the path of totality of like Texas and surrounding states. So we're going to speak on that. There's already a threat for Tuesday, Wednesday, and now even Thursday, which includes areas of like the Southeast, Georgia, South Carolina, and surrounding states. So guys, there's a lot to talk about. We're going to break down what's driving this, the ingredients, and then we're going to get even more detail tonight. I will have a video this evening unless something comes up. And of course, I will have you some of the latest information on the cloud cover forecast as far as the total eclipse here in the next couple of days. We'll have that time stamped out right at the end of the video. So if you just want to jump to that, that's there to help you folks too. But there's a lot coming up. There's going to be a lot to break down over the next several days. So thank you all for the support. This past week, it definitely was a big a growing week for sure after a very slow March. So welcome to any new people, and thank you all for the amazing support. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we continue to have this pesky area of low pressure that continues to spin just rain and snow showers into Maine and maybe a little bit into Vermont, New Hampshire also. We continue just to get rain and snow showers up in like New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. It just depends on where you are. It looks like you're dealing with a little bit of rain here in southeast Mass and areas of Rhode Island. Southeast is pretty quiet. My dad is actually in Boone, North Carolina, and he was sending me videos of it snowing last night very lightly. So it's pretty crazy for early April, but it certainly happens sometimes. Central portion of the country, pretty quiet. Great Lakes, beautiful start to your day. But, it doesn't look very active out west in the Rockies, but definitely a low pressure is going to rapidly deepen across the northern plains, bringing heavy snow on the cold side and a severe weather risk for areas of the middle of the country. The only thing really preventing this severe weather risk today from being more significant is a lack of thermodynamics, meaning your higher dew points, higher moisture, CAPE levels, but we certainly will have a severe weather threat today. Most likely that will unfold later on this afternoon. Speaking of that severe weather risk, there is a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, for this section of Nebraska, all the way down to just about Wichita, Kansas. Marginal risk goes all the way up to Valentine, Nebraska, almost to the South Dakota state line. Almost gets all the way to Omaha, almost to Kansas City, almost everything it seems, and then almost Oklahoma City, but does include Tulsa and surrounding regions. And we'll just have to watch out for this. This could be a tricky setup. Storms will be moving very fast storm motion due to a low pressure that's going to be strengthening very quickly. So we'll watch this. There is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location in this green area. So there is a risk for tornadoes. It's low, but there is a risk. Wind threat, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the hail threat will be there also in this yellow area. 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So excessive rainfall outlook below 5%. So we don't have to deal with really any flash flooding risks today. So that's good. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Red flag warnings are scattered about across the central portion of the country. There is an extreme fire danger area right here. And we'll talk about this here in a second when we get to the south central frame. They have issued an extreme category as far as fire danger right down here in southeast Colorado, areas of southwest Kansas, panhandle of Oklahoma, and Texas, and I think it does include a very small section of New Mexico. So very dry air. It's already in place. More dry air is going to move in. You combine that with a deepening surface low up here. This is going to bring some Very strong winds on the south side. This all the way up into the middle of the country. Very, very windy already this morning. It's going to get even windier throughout the day today. We got the winter storm warnings out for areas of Wyoming, the Black Hills of South Dakota, a few counties also in Nebraska, and we got winter weather advisories littered across the central and northern Rockies. It's pretty cold out there across the Ohio Valley. It's even, dipped below freezing across areas of North Carolina, certainly in the mountains where we have these freeze mornings, a little bit of fog in Louisiana, southeast Texas. It's getting a lot quieter today across the western U.S. Let's break down the southeast first. Beautiful day, just a chillier day, especially the further kind of north and east you work. We'll start off this morning. Nothing really going on. Beautiful day, bright sunshine, just like I say, have that little bit of a chill in the air across the southeast for early April standards. But we start to get into tomorrow morning, and then we start to see some showers enter the picture back here. But the immediate southeast, dry as a bone out here. Very dry, nice conditions. And just that with that higher sun angle, even if it just gets up to 63, 64, 65, it'll feel a lot warmer this time of the year than it would, say, in like January or something. But the northeast today, we will continue just to deal with kind of wraparound moisture. A weaker low, it's going to continue to weaken as you see this number rise for the most part, or either stay steady. This will continue to bring some showers, chilly showers across the coastal regions of Maine. Some light snow could break out again across northern Maine. Showery conditions across Boston this afternoon. And this will continue into this evening. We got some snow showers continuing to wrap back into Maine. And then you could get some snow showers to start your Sunday morning, maybe around the Boston metro area. We'll have to watch this. That'll be interesting, but nothing unheard of by any means. But for most of the Northeast, guys, it's pretty nice weather. This is when things start to get a little bit busier. We get into the south central U.S. We're dealing with some snow in the Rockies already. But we start to get into this afternoon. There's those storms that get going here, especially, I would say they kind of just initiate right in this region of Nebraska. We'll take a closer look at this here in a second. And then they'll sweep across, Kansas. They'll sweep across the rest of Kansas and get quite strong. We will most likely get some thunderstorm development as far south as almost down here at Tulsa and point south. And these storms will pack a punch. I don't think it's going to be an outbreak by any means, but once they sweep through, they're done. You're not going to get multiple opportunities for storms or anything in this area at all. But, these will weaken fast. They'll start to sweep through Missouri as the form of maybe some gusty winds, maybe just some showery conditions, heavy rain. Same thing with the Ozarks. And by the time you get into tomorrow morning, pretty calm conditions with a cold front progressing eastward. But it's probably going to get some more storms going probably in the Mississippi Valley tomorrow afternoon. But winds today, guys, let's break this down really quick. Let's focus really kind of in the central and southern high plains and the plains in general. These are wind gusts, predicted wind gusts in the National Weather Service between now and Sunday morning, folks. 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts across the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas. Eastern half of New Mexico, 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Look here, like in the Laramie Range, Northern Front Range here. You're going to be gusting over hurricane force winds, guys. There's probably going to be some blizzard-type conditions where it is snowing here in like eastern Wyoming. Just these winds are crazy. Very strong winds. You combine that with very low humidity, relative humidity right into here. It starts to drop into the teens, even single digits right into here as far as your humidity percentage right here. So, it is going to be dry as a bone and windy. And, all it takes is for you to drag a chain, on the roads or something like that. Certainly a cigarette butt will do it. And guys, just please just be aware of this. We don't need any fires breaking out across these areas. And because of these super dry conditions and also windy conditions, you have an extreme on the Outlook legend from the Fire Weather Outlook, day 1, which is for today, guys. An extreme category. So please be aware of this. This is something that doesn't get talked about as much, but it should. And of course, you got a critical all the way down here to southwest Texas, all the way up here to deeper into Colorado and Kansas. So please be aware of this, guys. Please be aware for sure. So we continue to move forward, though. Let's talk about these storms. We'll take a look at pivotal weather. There really isn't a great graphic for right here in the middle of the country on any other kind of weather site, so we'll have to look at pivotal weather here. But here's this deepening surface low that's going to bring all these strong southwesterly winds to the south. and we'll keep this going. And there's those storms exploding. And even though the severe weather risk isn't as much up here in like northern Nebraska, these storms, even though it's really close to the surface low, is going to bring some gusty winds, a tornado threat. And it's just like this kind of almost like shrimp tail kind of look right in here, which is typically the look when you get, this is a negatively tilted trough. This trough is going negative, and this is what is kind of getting a surface low really deepening, well, forming right now and then deepening throughout the afternoon. So these storms right in here kind of sweeping through. I mean, even all the way up here in like southern counties of South Dakota, but these storms sweeping through the eastern half of Nebraska, Kansas, all the way to Oklahoma. Guys, they will pack a punch. I mean, this is getting into like later on this evening. And then by the time we start to get to closer to midnight, these storms will weaken substantially and very quickly. So, you know, if we look at the updraft velocity swath, this kind of, you know, and we show this on the weather bell too, but this is a different way to look at it on pivotal weather. But you see these little highlighted sort of slashes right in here. This is where it's showing some rotation with some of these storms. I think the most rotation, I think the area that favors rotation with these storms the most, is the way I should say it, is right here in Nebraska into eastern Kansas. Okay, it really likes this area of eastern Kansas. So we could get a couple weak tornadoes today, very quick moving tornadoes, but I think they will be pretty weak. So we will watch out for this, even a little bit of a signal showing up here in eastern Oklahoma. We go up to the north central U.S. I want to show everybody first, and then we'll zoom into the northern plains. Great Lakes area, quiet weather day. You'll continue to get that snow melt up here. All the weather seems to be down to your southwest, where these nasty storms will sweep through Nebraska like we just talked about, and then weaken substantially as they kind of outrun its main ingredients. And then these showers can make it all the way to like southern Minnesota, all the way across Iowa. By the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, they will make it all the way to Illinois. And eastern Iowa could be waking up some rumbles of thunder, maybe, in like southwestern Minnesota, very possible. But, you know, if we take it all the way to like Sunday, could get some more storms that fire down in here into Illinois, but we'll speak more on this here in the video tonight. But there's that surface low weakening very fast. It strengthens very quick today, and it weakens very fast tomorrow. So let's take a closer look at this system right here. This is the cold side of it, right? You know, we start to get into about midday today. Snow begins to fall pretty heavily here in central Montana, central Wyoming. And then watch what happens as this low really deepens. Man, we could get some thunder snow today here in like eastern Wyoming. Very possible. Look at this little pocket of very heavy snow here in southwestern Nebraska. This continues and really pivots over the same area. And really eastern Wyoming really gets hit very hard with this. You're gonna switch to snow much easier here in the Black Hills because of these higher elevations. But you certainly could get some heavy snow in southwestern South Dakota. Might mix a little bit here along the South and North Dakota state line, and definitely a more consolidated area of heavy snow in the western counties of Nebraska. And then we start to get into tomorrow morning, and it's still snowing, folks, all the way to tomorrow afternoon, all the way to tomorrow evening. Still got moisture lingering around, but I think this begins to really kind of dwindle away very quickly as you get into Monday morning. So almost a weekend-long event of snow that will just pivot over these regions. And here's a broad look at it. Bighorn Mountains is definitely the breadwinner with this, with heavy, heavy snow. I can't wait to one day I can visit out here and just check out all these areas. I just really looking forward to it. Sometimes when I get slow at work, I just jump on Google Maps and I kind of virtually travel down these roadways. I don't know if anybody else ever does that, but I do it sometimes. Just even in these areas that don't, you know, are just kind of the plains of eastern Wyoming, are going to get a ton of snow with this setup. So let's just go on and zoom into these individual areas. Here's like southern Montana, you know, Billings, an inch or less, just not going to get a whole lot in that area. There's the Bighorn Mountains, Sheridan 4 to 6, Buffalo 1 to 2, Gillette, I think that's how you pronounce it, 8 to 12 inches in Wyoming. Lewistown 12 to 15, but these kind of lower elevated regions not going to get as much. You know, you can tell this is kind of elevation driven up here. Get a little bit further south, maybe not so much. There's the Bighorn Mountains right in here, going to get most likely could get 2 to 3 feet of snow depending on your elevation. Casper going to get 2 to 7. Medicine Bow 1 to 6. Yellowstone National Park area, not going to get a ton, but certainly several inches. And then we start to move into, what is this? This is sections of Wyoming, and then South Dakota. Here's the Black Hills area. Rapid City, not going to get much from this. Lead, though, up in those higher elevations, 11 to 19 inches of snow. So a big hitter with this. And then we scoot a little bit further south in Wyoming. Laramie, 1 to 4. Arlington, 2 to 6. Garrett, 4 to 9. Shirley Basin, 7 to 17. Lusk, 9 to 18 inches of snow. Harrison, 5 to 14. Casper, 2 to 7. So, big hitting winter storm this weekend. They're going to last most of the weekend, too. The rest of the western U.S., Montana will get some moderate snow, sometimes light, sometimes heavy. We'll continue to get some showers on and off in the western sections of Oregon and Washington and Northern California, just some on and off showers. Not a big deal at all. But we'll continue to get moisture that kind of pivots through Montana, a little bit of moisture in northern Idaho in the form of some snow tomorrow morning. And then we'll have another day of kind of the same thing, just across the northern terrain of the western U.S. And we'll just take a closer look at Montana here. Just these higher elevated regions are certainly favored. These kind of lower valley towns, not going to get as much snow in Montana at all. So, all right. So let's talk about what's driving what's going to be such an active streak of weather. Really, I would say it's really going to start Monday. But, it's already going to be pretty active today with the severe weather and winter storm. But for a much smaller area of the country and kind of lesser populated area. This is going to turn into a more substantial big deal for more people as we kind of inch our way deeper into next week. So let's start this off tomorrow morning. What you're looking at here on your screen, the blue is lower pressure, and then sort of the reds, orange, whatever color you want to call this, this is higher pressure, okay? So this is going to continue to scoot this way, this lower pressure. We're probably finally going to get rid of this. This continues to bring a return flow into the eastern U.S., which continues to keep us cool for the next couple of days. But this will finally drift away, and we got to watch everything that happens out here. So we'll back this up a little bit. This is into this evening, right? You see this area of blue sort of eject across the northern plains, okay? And it'll weaken, kind of bog down, literally bogged down and weaken in response because of this huge blocking pattern up here in Canada. So it can't really fully eject because this is really blocking it in. At the same time, another southern stream area of energy forms here in the kind of southwestern U.S., right? You see this other kind of darker blue color right here. You got this area and this area. This is going to be what causes such issues here. So this is another area of lower pressure. This sort of detaches from this. This flat out kind of just weakens for the most part. And then we got this sort of this upper low in the southwest. So this is around Monday afternoon. This upper low right here is most likely, and see if this is going to work. This is from when I drew on it a couple videos ago. This upper low right here is going to bring a southwesterly flow right here into this region. Okay, because flow around lower pressure, northern hemisphere goes like this, right? We talk a lot on this during hurricane season, and we will talk a lot on it this hurricane season most likely. But that's the way the flow goes. So what this does is this brings moist air just basically from the south. So this is going to create probably a severe weather event somewhere probably into here for Monday. This also brings a mid-level flow just in general, just a favorable wind flow into this region, specifically this region. And you got to remember the path of totality, what is going right through here. So watch as this continues to sort of move, right? This area of lower pressure sort of hangs around up here. All right, we start to get into Tuesday morning. This thing fully gets detached, and when it gets detached, you can almost call it like a cutoff upper low. They move very slowly. There's nothing really pulling them one way or the other. They're kind of drifting out there. So this is getting into Tuesday morning. We get into Tuesday afternoon. Lower pressure still hanging out up here. What is this going to do? Is it going to fizzle out? Is another area going to kind of introduce into the picture? Well, this is for Tuesday afternoon. Notice this blue blob has not really moved much. It's moved a little bit further east. So what is that going to do? Well, we get into Tuesday. Remember, flow going around this like this. We get into Tuesday. Here comes the flow. Maybe this threat shifts a tick east, but it's still favored right into here, and I would say a little bit further west. So this continues, and there's a saying out there in the weather world, a cutoff low is a weatherman's woe. And it's because, one, they're very hard to forecast, and two, they can bring crazy weather. And I really think this is going to bring a multi-day risk of crazy weather next week as far as severe weather. So you get this back off your screen, you keep this rolling, right? We kind of lose just about the influence of this lower pressure in the northern stream. This continues to kind of inch into Wednesday. Now, this thing's starting to pick up a little bit more speed, maybe filling this up here to the north. But this brings the severe weather threats a little bit further east into areas like the western deep south. So you notice in a 2-day period, so this is Monday afternoon. This is, watch its movement all the way from Monday afternoon to Wednesday afternoon. It's very slow. It's not moving very fast, but as it continues to move, you're going to continue to get this severe weather area that shifts a little bit further east. All right, so we're probably going to get severe weather Wednesday too. Now, this is when it gets interesting. So it could happen a little earlier, but this trough begins to amplify. In response, you're probably going to get some sort of surface low that develops. And I would say it's going to probably happen maybe more so Wednesday, maybe Thursday, but it starts to feel this northern stream energy. And then this area of blue, lower pressure, begins to get pulled northward, and you're going to probably get the ejection of this trough, and then we're going to probably get a severe weather threat for the southeast right in here. Okay, so what happens once this fully kind of merges with the northern stream? There's a chance it could bring severe weather to areas like the mid-Atlantic, the northeast Friday. So this area blue is going to, watch it, this is going to cause a lot of issues. All right, let's hope that it doesn't cause many, but but a better way to look at this is dew points. Remember how I was telling you it was bringing the moisture kind of on the southern base to the southeastern base of this lower pressure, kind of pulling the southwesterly flow up. Well, you can see this moist flow being pulled up. We get into Sunday. This is more so driven off a cold front, right? A little bit of a severe weather risk up the Mississippi Valley for Sunday, tomorrow afternoon. And then we start to move into our Monday, day of the eclipse. Look at this low-level moisture being yanked up from this upper low, chilling right into here. So a lot of moisture bubbling up into Texas, Louisiana, the deep south. Then we start to move into our Tuesday afternoon. This moist sector gets much more broad, wide, stretching from, central Texas all the way into like Alabama, a little bit more drier air in the Carolinas, as that, upper low is still right here in this region here, so it hasn't really moved far enough west to really yank in a lot of this Gulf moisture into the southeast. And then we start to get into our Wednesday, and you notice off the Euro, this moist sector begins to get pulled further north, and it's because it's starting to feel the influence of this northern stream. And moist air starts to get pulled in even more north, and then we start to get into our Thursday, and look at all this deep moisture over the Carolinas, areas of Georgia, and then the mid-Atlantic. And we got to watch. And the European has moisture getting pulled all the way up into the northeast. We certainly need to watch Friday too, but there's so many days ahead of us that it's hard to pay too much attention to way out there. But if we look at that mid-level flow, what you see really in the purple here, steady 50, 60, 45, 65 mid-level jet. Okay, you keep getting to Monday, plenty of mid-level flow right out of this region. Aiding in kinematics for lift for thunderstorms right over, kind of overlapping this moist air mass down here, right? And you keep on going, you get into Tuesday afternoon, starting to get more of a compact mid-level flow down here, which is telling me that this upper low is probably trying to amplify and strengthen already into Tuesday. All right, this could create more of a stronger, what we call low-level jet. All right, kind of underlapping the mid-level jet. And then we start to get into Wednesday, a more intense mid-level flow down here. This tells me that you're probably going to get maybe a more substantial severe weather threat for like Louisiana and surrounding states Wednesday afternoon. But you got this 70 to 80 knot mid-level jet down here. And then we start to get into Thursday, and this thing really starts to get juiced up here as we got this steady 80 to 90 knot mid-level jet right over the southeast, with this thing really amplifying. So this is going to bring a multi-day severe weather risk. And sure enough, if you look at the Storm Prediction Center outlook, Marginal risk already up for the Mississippi Valley. This is for just really driven off a cold front, not really what's coming, right? This is for tomorrow. So we will watch for an area of severe weather up the Mississippi Valley. And then we start to get into our Monday, day of the eclipse. Huge slight risk of severe weather from southern Oklahoma, very small section of southwestern Arkansas, northwestern Louisiana, and a large chunk of the heart of Texas. What is this driven off of? All we know is that there is a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles of a given location in this yellow area. But they already have a hatched risk up, which means there's a 10% risk of significant severe weather. And this will most likely be driven off of large hail, not tornadoes, large hail. I think we're going to have some storms capable of producing some very large hail in areas of Texas Monday, which we know the path of totality goes right through this area. You know, this happens earlier in the day, so I really think these storms might get going after the path of totality moves over, but who knows? We'll have to see. All right, and then we start to get into our day 4. This doesn't move much, folks. In fact, it really doesn't move really out of Texas. It stays over the same areas in Texas. It just kind of extends further east, including a very small section now, southwestern Mississippi. This is for Tuesday. 15% risk, basically a slight risk of severe weather already for Tuesday. And then, guys, I mean, look at day 5. This is for Wednesday. This starts to now steadily shift a little bit further east, including a lot of Mississippi, the entire southern half of Arkansas, all of Louisiana, and still eastern sections of Texas. Now, this is new. Day 6. Severe weather now possible in the southeast. Already a slight risk for Thursday. Next Thursday, guys, 5 days from now for areas of the southeast. I definitely think I'm going to end up having a chase day probably sometime next week. So, you know, stay tuned for that, especially if this happens in my neck of the woods, which models are really in some pretty solid agreement this far out, but I already got a slight risk this far out. So, you know, if we kind of look at what the radar could look like, this is just the Euro. We're not in range of mesoscale models, obviously, yet. But, you know, we look at Monday afternoon, you know, showing all these storms here in southeast Texas. And, you know, this just looks like splotches of yellows and oranges and greens. We don't know the true structure of these storms yet. But there's those storms exploding here in Texas. And then we start to get into our Tuesday morning. I think there'll be storms ongoing already across Texas. You know, and then we start to get into Tuesday afternoon. I mean, we got tons of storm action going on right in here in northern Texas. This will kind of, I think a lot of these complexes of storms will form. They'll move east, kind of outrun their environment. I think that'll happen a lot Monday and Tuesday before all the ingredients really shifts further east. But, you know, huge area of storms showing up. You know, what is this, Tuesday evening? Right here in this region, and we'll kind of move a little bit further east now, and we'll go to where we left off. And you know, we start to get into Wednesday morning. Look at all those storms, and there's that low forming right here because of this amplifying trough. Look at all these storms Wednesday, about Wednesday midday, early afternoon across the Gulf states. A lot of storms, and this could be a lot of severe weather, guys. We just got to figure this one out. And then, you know, we start to get into Thursday morning. Look at all these storms heading right towards the southeast, and we just kind of have to watch what happens Thursday afternoon. That's pretty far out. So we'll give you some brief information on the eclipse, and brief, it'll be good. This is the blend of all models. So you know, somebody mentioned in the comments it's kind of a confusing graphic, and I agree. It's not. I would say the color code is not. I feel like it almost should be reversed, in my opinion. I feel like the white should symbolize more cloud cover, and the blue should symbolize less cloud cover. I don't know, just my opinion. But anyways, it's reversed. So if you see like a 61 around like the Dallas area, for example, that means that it's saying on this blend of all models guidance that 61% of the sky is going to be covered with clouds. So this is a broad look at it, the entire path of totality. Let's go on and start to zoom into some of these regions. This is South Texas. Latest information saying this region right in here is going to run a risk of a lot of cloud cover. So, you know, it's saying San Antonio, 82% of the sky is going to be covered in clouds. Austin, 66%. You go up to northern Texas. And let's see, not sure why it's doing a little weird thing down here, so sorry about that. But we look at Texas here, Austin 66, Dallas, the Tyler around 61% of the sky is going to be covered in clouds is based off this model guidance right into here, which this is the blend of all models. This combines all model guidance together and kind of creates one model run off that. Go up to Texarkana saying 57% of the sky is going to be covered in clouds, Shreveport 61, but you're not in totality, Paris 57. And then we head up into Arkansas. What we looking like is this goes right through the heart of Arkansas. Little Rock looking like 40% of the sky is going to be covered in clouds based off this. Now, this isn't exact. All right, this is just a model run. Russellville, 31%. Looks much better once you get into northern Arkansas, kind of the Ozarks. And then northeast Arkansas, Jonesboro, 30% of the sky covered in clouds. Okay. And we start to move a little bit into Missouri. And St. Louis, which is right on the fringe of totality, 28%. If you live in St. Louis, certainly make the drive further south, because I'm telling you, 98, 99% totality is not totality. That little, even like a 0.5%, guys, brings way too much light into it to make it nice, I guess you would say. I'm telling you, take my word for it. I was part of the eclipse in Central South Carolina in 2017, and my dad, who lived up in Rock Hill, South Carolina, was like in 98% totality, and he called me up, he's like, son, that sucked, that wasn't even that cool. And it really just tells you that 1 to 2% of light from the sun, I mean, is enough to really light up the sky. So I would make the drive, call out sick. But southeast Missouri, you know, it looks like in general about 25% of the sky covered in clouds. Same thing with southern Illinois, but we'll take a better look at Illinois and Indiana here. And path of totality right here. Evansville going for 26. Indianapolis, 30%. Looks like this area has improved over the last few days, but you're right on the fringe of more clouds here in Kentucky. But it looks like this area might be a good viewing area. It really does. But you know, you start to move into Ohio, you start to run into a little bit more issues here. You know, I think if you live in western Ohio, northwestern Ohio, you stand a better chance. The further tucked in you get into northwestern Ohio, the better it is. But it looks like you are trending to more kind of clouds, especially in northeast Ohio, Cleveland, kind of up to Erie. I mean, looking more closer to like 50 to 60% of the sky covered in clouds. So looks like you might have to deal with it here. So, you know, that's something to consider if you're trying to still map out an area to find totality here. And, you know, I'll be honest, you know, this is an area that's really trending more clouds too. Buffalo, path of totality going right through it, saying around 69% of the sky covered in clouds, all the way to Watertown. Could be dealing with a good bit of cloud in this area. Once you start to get up into the Adirondacks, maybe northern Vermont, maybe less clouds, but even has trended to a little bit more clouds in this area too. We go up to New England. I really think New England's going to be the best place to view it. Up here in Maine, northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont, but really Maine. Now, I know everybody can't make the trip all the way up to the heart of Maine. There's probably a ton of snow on the ground still, but I really think if there's one place that's going to get the best view, you know, here and the entire lower 48, it's probably Maine. It looks like New Brunswick's good too. So somebody told me to include, Mexico too. And, you know, I'll be honest, unless you live like right down here in Mexico, if you're like in northern Mexico right in here, it looks like it's kind of the same deal. You're going to deal with a lot of clouds, but we'll be in pocket right here when you're kind of closer tucked into the Pacific side of Mexico to where, you know, a little bit less clouds. But guys, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Saturday.